The day I discovered my husband with our neighbor. I thought my marriage had finally reached its worst moment. But I was wrong. What I saw that afternoon was only the beginning. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I was 72 years old when I discovered that the people closest to me had been planning something terrible behind my back. They were not only trying to destroy my marriage. They wanted to take control of my life. They wanted my house. They wanted my money. And most importantly, they wanted everyone to believe that I was no longer capable of making my own decisions. But they made one serious mistake. They underestimated me. It happened on a rainy Thursday afternoon. I had been away from home for a few hours. When I returned, I immediately noticed something strange. The front door was not completely closed. I pushed it open. David. I called my husband. There was no answer. David had always followed the same routine. Coffee in the afternoon. Television in the living room. Then a short nap. But that afternoon the television was silent. Instead I heard water running upstairs. Then I heard a woman laughing. I stopped on the staircase. I knew that voice. It belonged to Linda, our neighbor. She had been visiting our house quite often during the last few months. David always told me that she was only being friendly. But something about her never felt right. I walked toward the bathroom. The door was slightly open. I pushed it, and then I saw them. David was with Linda. For several seconds I could not speak. David looked at me. Linda looked at me, but neither of them looked ashamed. That frightened me more than the betrayal itself. There was no panic. There was no apology. There was no attempt to explain. Linda simply smiled. It was a small smile. But I could see satisfaction in her eyes. I finally found my voice. Get out of my house. David stood up. Eleanor, calm down. Do not tell me to calm down. My hands were shaking, but my voice remained steady. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. My son Ryan was standing in the hallway. I expected him to look shocked. I expected him to defend me. But he looked annoyed. Mom, you really need to stop making everything about yourself. I stared at him. What did you just say? He walked toward me. You heard me. Then he said something I will never forget. You brought this on yourself. My heart sank. My own son was defending my husband's betrayal. But then I noticed something. Ryan looked at Linda. Linda looked at Ryan. They exchanged a quick glance. It lasted only a second. But I noticed it. I had spent most of my working life dealing with financial records. I was trained to notice small details. That glance told me something. This was not an accident. They had expected me to come home. They had expected me to react. And suddenly I wondered why. David started speaking again. Eleanor, you have been under a lot of stress lately. I looked at him. Stress. Yes. You have been forgetting things. Ryan nodded. You forget appointments. You get angry over small things. Then Linda spoke softly. Maybe it is time someone helped you. That sentence changed everything. They were not defending the affair. They were building a story about me. They wanted people to believe that I was confused. They wanted people to believe that I was becoming unstable. They wanted people to believe that I needed someone else to control my life. I walked downstairs without saying another word. I went into my study. I closed the door. Then I sat behind my desk. For the first time that afternoon my hands stopped shaking. I opened the drawer where I kept my important documents. Bank statements, property papers, insurance documents, retirement records. Everything was there. David always joked about my paperwork. He used to say that I kept enough documents to run a government. But being careful had always protected me. Now I wondered if it would protect me again. I picked up my phone. I opened the recording application. Then I walked back toward the hallway. I stayed near the bathroom door. I did not enter. I simply listened. At first there was silence. Then I heard Ryan. Do you think she will cooperate? David answered. Eventually. Linda laughed. She is stubborn. Ryan spoke again. That is why we need evidence. My heart stopped for a moment. Evidence. I kept the phone inside my pocket. David continued. We only need her to lose control. Linda asked. And if she does not? David answered. She will. Ryan laughed. You know, Mom. Give her enough pressure and she will explode. I stood completely still. They were trying to provoke me. They wanted me angry. They wanted me emotional. They wanted other people to see me losing control. Suddenly the strange events from the past few weeks made sense. Ryan had started recording me whenever we argued. David had started asking me the same questions again and again. Linda had started making comments about my memory. Are you sure you remember that correctly? Maybe you should write things down. At your age everyone forgets things. I had thought they were simply being cruel. Now I understood. They were creating a story. Their story. A story where I was confused. A story where I was unstable. A story where someone else needed to take control of my life. I returned to my study. I locked the door. Then I opened my laptop. I searched through my recent files. Something strange caught my attention. There was a document I had never seen before. I opened it. My stomach tightened. It was a legal authorization document. David was listed as someone who could manage my financial affairs. Ryan was listed as the backup. I had never signed it. I had never agreed to it. Yet the document already existed. I printed it. Then I found something even more disturbing. There was an appointment for a medical evaluation. The appointment was for me. I had never scheduled it. The date was only 2 weeks away. I leaned back in my chair. Everything suddenly became clear. They were not simply trying to end my marriage. They were trying to make me look incapable. If they could convince people that I was no longer mentally capable, they could try to take control of my money. They could try to control my property. And my house was the biggest prize. The house had belonged to me before I married David. I had bought it with my own money. But I knew exactly how dangerous people could become when they believed someone was too old to fight back. I was not careless. And I was not finished. That night I changed my strategy. I became quiet, very quiet. The next morning David walked into the kitchen. He looked at me carefully. I smiled. Good morning. He looked surprised. You are not angry. I shrugged. I am tired. That was exactly what he wanted to hear. Or at least that is what he thought. Ryan came to the house later that morning. He spoke to me slowly. Almost like he was speaking to a child. Mom, maybe we should start helping you with some things. I nodded. Maybe. His face changed. I saw relief in his eyes. They thought I was giving up. I was not giving up. I was buying time. That afternoon I made my first private phone call. I contacted an attorney who worked with older people facing financial abuse. I told her everything. She listened carefully. When I finished, she asked me several questions. Do you still control your bank accounts? Yes. Do you still own the property? Yes. Do you have your important documents? Yes. Then do not tell them anything. I followed her advice. Over the next few days I copied every important document. Property records, bank statements, insurance papers, retirement accounts, tax records. I saved digital copies in a secure place. A place David and Ryan knew nothing about. Then I checked my credit report. That was when I found something that made my heart sink. Someone had recently checked my credit. The inquiry was connected to a home equity application. My house. Someone was trying to borrow money against my property. And I had not given permission. I immediately called my attorney. She told me not to confront them. Let them continue talking. She said they will reveal more if they believe you know nothing. So I listened. I acted tired. I acted confused. Sometimes I even pretended to forget small things. Every time I did, they became more confident. And the more confident they became, the more they revealed. One evening I heard Ryan talking to David in the kitchen. We need to move quickly. David answered. She has not signed anything. Ryan replied. Then get her to the evaluation. Linda spoke next. If she becomes emotional, that will be enough. I closed my eyes. They thought they were preparing my downfall. But they were preparing my evidence. Then came the day they finally made their move. David called me into the dining room. Ryan was already sitting there. Linda was sitting beside him. I immediately understood. This was not a family conversation. This was a trap. David pushed a folder toward me. We are worried about you. I looked at the folder. What is this? Just some paperwork. Ryan leaned forward. You need to let us help you. I opened the folder. Inside were documents that would give them control over my affairs. I slowly turned each page. Then I looked at David. You want me to sign this? He nodded. It would make things easier. I looked at him. For whom? Nobody answered. Ryan finally spoke. For everyone. I closed the folder. Then I asked, what happens to my house? Linda answered before either man could speak. We sell it. I looked at her. And where do I go? She smiled. Somewhere more suitable for someone your age. For a few seconds nobody spoke. Then Ryan said, Mom, you need to understand that you are not 25 anymore. I looked directly into his eyes. No, I am 72, and I know exactly what I am signing. I pushed the folder back toward them. I will not sign anything today. Ryan became angry. You always have to make everything difficult. I shook my head. No, you simply are not used to hearing the word no from someone you thought you could control. I stood up. Then I walked away. Behind me I heard Ryan whisper. She is going to ruin everything. I stopped at the doorway. I did not turn around. Because by then I knew something they did not. They were not controlling the ending. I was. That night I opened my laptop again. I created a new folder. I named it, The Truth. Inside that folder I placed every document. Every recording. Every message. Every suspicious transaction. Every piece of evidence. Then I created one final file. A timeline. I wrote down everything that had happened during the previous 6 months. The strange comments about my memory. The secret medical appointment. The financial inquiry. The conversations. The bathroom incident. The documents they wanted me to sign. When I finished, I looked at the screen. For the first time in months I was not afraid of what would happen next. They had spent months preparing a story about me. I had spent days collecting the truth. And the truth had one advantage. It did not need to be rehearsed. The next morning my attorney called. "Mrs. Hayes, I think it is time we protect the house." I looked through the window at the home I had spent my entire life protecting. "Yes," I said, "let us do it." And that was the moment my real fight began. But I had no idea how desperate David Ryan and Linda would become once they realized their plan was failing. Because their next move would involve the police. And this time they would try to make me look like the villain in front of everyone.